Okay, so welcome. This is another case study, or it's really an article that I'm reading about something that's going on in the UK at the moment. So today we're just going to give a little talk about the importance of due process. This is a case that has happened in the UK in the last few years. It's been reported in the media, but it's a warning of how things might be going, that cases and investigations are being conducted by university and non-experts outside a legal setting. I know it's been happening in the US under Title IX situations. Yes, I think due process is very important. It's the one thing that might protect you if you find yourself in a sticky situation and on the receiving end of an allegation. So this is an article from The Telegraph. This is dated in March 2020. Student accused of sexual misconduct fails in legal bid to return to university. He claimed that since alleged assault took place overseas, his university's sexual misconduct policy does not apply to him. This is March 2020 now. Because of the sickness, the virus that's going on, some of the legal processes have been delayed. I was hanging on in the hope that there would be a conclusion to this case, but it hasn't happened. It was due to finish in May, but I think because of the virus that's going on and in the spring of 2020, it's been delayed. So we'll read the article anyway. A student kicked out of university after being accused of sexual misconduct during a year abroad has lost a legal bid to be allowed to continue his course and take his final exams. The undergraduate, who was expelled following an internal investigation into the incident, had sought an immediate injunction against the Russell Group institution. Now, Russell Group means the leading 24 universities in the UK. He claims that since the alleged assault took place overseas rather than on the university's premises in the UK, their sexual misconduct policy did not apply to him. But the High Court refused on Thursday to grant the student an emergency order, allowing him to immediately return to the university and continue his studies. As a result, the case will not be heard in full until May, when another judge will be asked to decide whether the findings of the university's disciplinary panel should be set aside and the student allowed to continue his education at the institution. Now, it's the end of May at the moment. We haven't heard anything, but that's because of the delays because of the sickness that's going around. The student, who is referred to in court papers as AB, was accused of sexually assaulting a fellow student at his apartment in November 2018 during their year abroad. The pair had been at the bar with friends before returning to his apartment, where she alleged that after she returned from his bathroom feeling unwell, he lay down beside her on the bed, touched her sexually, stripped her of all her clothes, and attempted to have sexual intercourse with her without her consent. The court heard she later stated that she felt unable to prevent what happened to her as a result of a combination of her intoxicated state and the effects of the trauma of what was happening. AB denied the assault, claiming they had consensual sex and that she was a willing and active participant. Following an investigation into the female student's complaint by her independent sexual misconduct investigator appointed by the university, a disciplinary hearing was held into the allegations in October 2019. AB did not attend the hearing, later arguing that he should have been allowed to have full legal representation. So he didn't have representation at that hearing. He wasn't allowed to bring it along. The disciplinary panel concluded that the student was guilty of serious sexual misconduct and in breach of the university's sexual misconduct policy and should be expelled with immediate effect. Lawyers for the student argued that the incident took place in a private setting and so fell outside of the university's jurisdiction. Simon Butler, the barrister acting for AB, also argued that his client did not have sufficient legal expertise to properly defend himself at the disciplinary hearing. But the university's barrister argued that the institution had complied with the requirements of natural justice and that there was no right in law to have legal representation at the disciplinary panel. In her ruling, handed down after a hearing held by conference call because of social distancing measures, Deputy High Court Judge Ms. Margaret Obi rejected the argument that the incident was not an internal disciplinary matter because it had taken place in another country away from the university. She stated the action in the context of this case was the alleged sexual misconduct. The university had no choice but to take the complaint seriously and to investigate it. Anything less would have undermined the trust and confidence in the university's ability to protect the interests of its students. The fact that the complainant was a student from another university is irrelevant. So not only was it overseas and off university premises, but it was with a student from another university. Miss Obi did, however, rule that although he failed to attend the disciplinary procedures, there was still some question as to whether AB had been given the opportunity to receive a fair hearing by the panel. And a full High Court hearing into the case is due to be held on May the 5th. I think that's been delayed though, at which the judge could either uphold or set aside the finding of the university's disciplinary panel. So my main point about this is that there doesn't seem to be any due process. If there had been, or once a sexual assault has been alleged, the police should be brought in. It should be a police matter, and it should be done independently and through the courts and with proper legal representation and legal standards. But what is very worrying is that a university is determining what happens to this defendant. He could lose his whole livelihood, career prospects because of this. He hasn't had legal representation. It's a legal policy that hasn't been challenged, and presumably the accuser also needs to be cross-examined. So I think the most important thing is due process seems to be taking a back seat in this. So these are some of the concerns. So if you find yourself in a situation, then this is the kind of thing you need to be especially well prepared. Make sure you build up your case. Try and get the case addressed in a proper legal setting. I don't think the university should have jurisdiction over something that happens overseas in a non-university setting with students from other universities. If you find yourself in a similar situation, I know this happens in the States quite a bit with the Title IX, but I know that's going through some changes at the moment as well. So due process, due process, due process, as I always say. So thank you for that. Have a look at my other videos where I go into more detail about what you should do if you're arrested and what you should do immediately after you're arrested. I'm also doing some videos on the legal procedures that police are obliged to follow, and also law and other matters in defence preparation. Okay, so thank you for that, and see you next time. Please subscribe, and if you're interested in helping me, then you can buy the books, obviously. You can find them on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. So they're titled Mad as Hell Parts 1 and 2 by David N. Anderson. But there's also, I'm setting up a Patreon account, so if you want to support me and help me try and knock out more videos, that'd be a great help. Okay, thank you.